Have you ever worked the night shift? That strange, quiet time when the world seems to hold its breath. That's when things get weird. This story comes from a maintenance technician who worked at a massive, aging hospital in Korea. A place with so many wings and additions that even the blueprints were a mess of confusion. Our guy, let's call him Minjun, was used to the hospital's groans and creaks. The hiss of old pipes, the hum of fluorescent lights. It was just background noise to him. But one night, that background noise changed. It started with a call about faulty wiring in the East Wing. This section of the hospital was ancient, a labyrinth of corridors that were rarely used anymore. Minjun grabbed his toolkit and headed down, the silence of the hallways broken only by the squeak of his work boots. He was following a thick bundle of cables along the ceiling when he noticed it. Tucked away in a small, forgotten alcove was an elevator. This was strange. He knew the layout of this wing like the back of his hand, and there was no elevator on any of the official floor plans for this section. Curiosity got the better of him. The elevator itself looked old, with a brass plate that was tarnished and dark. He pushed the call button, and to his surprise, it lit up with a dim, sickly yellow glow. A moment later, the door slid open with a low groan. Inside, it was just as strange. The panel where the floor numbers should have been was just a smooth, black surface. In place of buttons, there were small, unmarked black circles. No lobby, no basement, no numbers at all. Just these cryptic dots. Minjun figured it must be some kind of old service lift. Maybe one that was decommissioned decades ago, but somehow still had power. The wiring he was meant to check ran into the shaft. So a tut. What the heck? He stepped inside, planning to just ride it up or down one floor to see where it went. He pressed one of the black circles at random. The doors rumbled shut, sealing him in darkness for a second before the dim overhead light flickered back on. Then, the elevator started to move, but it wasn't going up. It was going down. A small, digital display above the door, one he hadn't noticed before, lit up. It showed the number -1. Minjun frowned. The hospital only had 3 basement levels, mostly for storage in the morgue. He'd been to all of them, but the elevator kept descending. The display ticked over. -2, -3, -4. A knot of anxiety started to form in his stomach. This was impossible. The hospital wasn't that deep. He frantically started pressing the other black circles on the panel, but nothing happened. The elevator didn't stop. It just kept going down, deeper and deeper into the earth. The numbers on the display kept climbing, or rather, falling. -7, -8, -9. The air in the car grew cold, and a strange, low hum vibrated through the floor. It felt like the building itself was groaning under some immense, unnatural pressure. He tried the emergency stop. Nothing. He tried prying the doors. They were sealed tight. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the display showed -12. Then, with a final, sickening lurch, it settled on -13. The elevator shuddered to a halt. For a moment, there was complete silence. Minjun held his breath, his heart pounding against his ribs. He didn't want the doors to open. He wanted nothing more than to go back up, back to the familiar, sterile hallways of the hospital he knew. But with that same low groan from before, the doors began to slide open. The sight that greeted him will be burned into his memory forever. It wasn't a basement. It was a hospital corridor, just like the ones upstairs, but twisted into a nightmare. The walls were stained with a dark, brownish substance, and the floor was littered with debris. Rusted medical equipment and overturned gurneys lay scattered about. The air was thick with the overwhelming smell of old, stale disinfectant mixed with something else, something metallic and vaguely sweet, like decay. It was pitch black except for a single, flickering light far down the hall, casting long, dancing shadows. And then he heard it, a sound that made the blood freeze in his veins. Squeak, squeak, squeak. It was the sound of a stretcher's wheels, rolling on the grimy floor, but it was fast. Far too fast. It was coming from the darkness at the end of the hall, heading straight for him. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Faster and faster. The sound grew louder, echoing in the dead silence of the corridor. Minchun's training, his logic, everything just evaporated. All that was left was pure, primal fear. He didn't wait to see what was pushing it. He slammed his hand on the black circle for door close. The doors began to slide shut, but it felt agonizingly slow. The squeaking was deafening now. It was right outside the elevator. Just as the doors were about to meet, a hand shot through the gap. It wasn't a normal hand. It was pale, almost gray, with long, thin fingers and dirty, broken nails. It looked like the hand of a corpse, dry and ancient. It scrabbled at the edge of the door for a second, trying to force it back open. Minjun screamed and threw himself against the back wall of the elevator as the doors finally sealed shut. Cutting off the hand and the horrifying sound, the elevator immediately began to ascend. It moved much faster going up. The display flashed through the negative numbers, back towards 0. When the doors finally opened, he wasn't in the forgotten East Wing anymore. He was standing in the brightly lit, busy main lobby of the ground floor. People were walking by, chatting, completely oblivious to the terror he had just experienced. He stumbled out of the elevator, gasping for air, looking back at the machine that had taken him to hell. It looked completely normal. The panel inside now had the standard buttons for every floor. He, uno, dos, tres. No black circles. No display for negative floors. It was just a regular elevator. He quit his job the next day. He couldn't set foot in that hospital again. But the story didn't end there. It became a piece of hospital lore. A ghost story passed between nurses and doctors on the night shift. They say that Phantom Elevator never really went away. The button for floor -13, that little black circle, now appears randomly. Sometimes it shows up on the panel in the surgical wing elevator. Sometimes in the one by the cafeteria. It's never in the same place twice. The hospital staff have a rule, an unspoken warning that's more serious than any fire drill. If you're ever in an elevator and see that strange, unmarked black button has lit up on its own, whatever you do, do not press it. Don't even get curious. Just get out and take the next one. Because that thing with the pale, gray hand, the thing that was pushing the stretcher in the dark, is still down there. And sometimes it gets lonely. It likes to ride the elevator, traveling between its world and ours, just waiting for someone to get curious, waiting for someone to press the button and accept its invitation to the 13th floor below. Thanks for listening to this chilling tale. If you love stories that crawl under your skin and stay there, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got plenty more darkness to explore together. Stay safe, and maybe take the stairs next time. Have you ever walked down an empty hallway at night and felt like you weren't alone? That feeling of being watched, the chill that runs down your spine even when there's no one there. Today, we're stepping into one of those hallways, into a story that has haunted the dark corners of the internet for years. We're going to talk about room 733. This isn't just some random scary story. It's a legend that feels real. It has its roots in a place you'd least expect to find pure terror. A hospital, or more accurately, a building that was once a college dormitory, hastily converted into a temporary clinic to handle an overflow of patients. Think about that for a second. Old dorm rooms, filled with a history of students, parties, and late-night study sessions, now transformed into sterile, white-walled patient rooms. The energy in a place like that must be complicated. As the clinic got up and running, every single room was put to use. Every single one, except for a room at the very end of the 7th floor corridor, room 733. Unlike the other doors, which were simple wood with a standard lock, this one was different. It was sealed shut. Not just locked, but welded. Thick, industrial weld marks scarred the frame, fusing the door to the wall, a permanent and desperate measure to keep something in, or maybe to keep something out. The nurses, especially those who braved the solitude of the night shift, were the first to notice the strange occurrences. The hospital at night is an eerie world of its own. The usual daytime hustle disappears, replaced by a profound, heavy silence, broken only by the rhythmic beep of machines and the soft squeak of rubber-soled shoes on linoleum. It's in this silence that you start to hear things you're not supposed to. From room 733, they heard footsteps. Not the frantic, panicked running you might expect from a horror movie, but a slow, deliberate pacing. Back and forth, a heavy, rhythmic tread coming from inside a room that hadn't been opened in decades. Some nurses tried to rationalize it. It's an old building, they'd say. The pipes are just settling. But they knew the sound was too distinct, too human, too B-pipes. It was the sound of someone or something restlessly walking the confines of that small, sealed space. Then there was the doorknob, the old, tarnished brass knob, useless and frozen in place by the welds, or so they thought. Several nurses, on different nights, reported the same chilling sight. As they did their rounds, their flashlights would catch a glint of movement. The doorknob, it would be turning, slowly, silently. A full, agonizing rotation to the left, a pause, and then a slow, smooth turn back to the right. It was as if someone trapped on the other side was methodically testing the lock, night after night, hoping that this time it might finally give way. The sight of it was so unnerving that many started taking the long way around, avoiding that end of the hall altogether. The medical students, who had to pull all-nighters in the building, study areas, had their own encounters. Late at night, walking past that forbidden door, they'd catch something out of the corner of their eye. The door to room 733 had a small, rectangular window set into it, reinforced with wire mesh. It was thick, frosted glass, the kind that lets light through but obscures any clear view. But if you walked past at just the right time, when the hallway was dark and the moonlight hit the window just so you could see a shape, it was a silhouette, a tall, slender figure, pressed right up against the glass from the inside. Its form was distorted and hazy, but it was undeniably human shape. Most students would just quicken their pace, a shiver of unease motivating their feet. But a few, driven by morbid curiosity or perhaps a misguided sense of bravery, would stop and stare. And that's when the real horror began. If you stared at the silhouette for too long, it would start to move, but it didn't move on its own. It would mimic you. If you tilted your head, the shadow would tilt its head. If you raised a hand, its own shadowy appendage would rise. But it wasn't perfect. There was a delay, a strange, disjointed lag in its movements. It was like watching a reflection in a broken, glitching mirror. The figure's motions were just slightly off, jerky and unnatural, as if it was struggling to copy you. This broken mirror effect was profoundly disturbing, making your own reflection feel alien. It made you question what you were really looking at. Was it a reflection, or was it something else? Learning, imitating, studying you from its prison. So, what happened in room 733? Why was it sealed with such finality? The legend, pieced together from hushed conversations and old, forgotten records, tells a tragic and terrifying story. The room, back when it was part of a fully functioning psychiatric ward, was assigned to a young woman. Her diagnosis is lost to time, but her case notes were filled with one recurring, obsessive theme. She spoke of a presence she called the other. She claimed it lived in the reflections. At first, it only appeared in the small window of her room. She would spend hours staring at her own reflection, telling the doctors that someone else was staring back. The other, she said, looked just like her, but wrong. Its eyes were too wide, its smile too long. It would talk to her, she claimed, whispering things no one else could hear. The staff, of course, dismissed it as a symptom of her psychosis, a visual and auditory hallucination. They tried to reassure her, to medicate her, but her obsession only grew. She became terrified of any reflective surface. She'd cover the window with her blanket, refused to look in mirrors, and even cup her hands over a glass of water to avoid seeing her own face. Her terror escalated. She began screaming that the other was trying to switch places with her, that it wanted to get out. One night, the ward was shaken by her screams. They were different this time. Not the usual cries of distress, but shrieks of pure, unadulterated terror, mixed with sounds of a violent struggle. Nurses and orderlies rushed to her room. After several agonizing minutes of fumbling with the keys, they finally forced the door open. The room was a wreck. Furniture was overturned, but it was the scene on the floor that seared itself into their minds. The young woman was lying in the center of the room. Her body was contorted at an impossible angle. Her neck was snapped. The coroner's report would later note that the injuries were consistent, with someone being violently lifted into the air and then dropped, or thrown, with incredible force. There was no one else in the locked room. The window was secure. There was no logical explanation. The very next morning, the hospital administration made a swift, decisive move. They cleared the room of all its contents and brought in a welding crew. By midday, room 733 was sealed, its story and its secrets locked away behind a wall of steel. They hoped that would be the end of it. They were wrong. To this day, long after the clinic moved out and the building was repurposed, yet again, the legends persist. Staff who work in the building, custodians, security guards, they all have stories. They still hear the pacing, they still see the doorknob turn. And the silhouette in the window, it's still there. They say the reflective glass of the window, even from the hallway, still shows a figure standing on the other side. A tall, slender figure. And everyone who knows the story, who has felt the cold dread of that hallway, agrees on one chilling piece of advice. If you ever find yourself walking down that corridor late at night, and you see the silhouette in the window of room 733, whatever you do, don't stare. But if you can't help yourself, if your eyes lock onto that shadowy form and you see it begin to move, pray you don't see it smile. Because the legend is very, very clear on one thing. If the silhouette ever smiles at you, you need to step back. Slowly, calmly. Never, ever turn your back. Because the moment you do, the reflection might just stop being a reflection. And the thing that has been waiting patiently in the dark for all these years might finally get the chance to step out. Thanks for joining me on this dive into one of the internet's most enduring and unsettling legends. What do you think's trapped in room 7? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more dark corners of the world with me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Stay safe and maybe avoid old hospital hallways at night. Hospitals are places of healing, but they're also places where life and death hang in a delicate balance. Walk the halls of any old hospital late at night, and you'll feel it a certain weight in the air, a stillness that's almost unnatural. The silence is punctuated by the soft beep of monitors and the distant squeak of a cart's wheels. It's in these moments that the lines between the living and the not-so-living begin to blur. Every hospital has its stories, its whispers that are passed down from one generation of staff to the next. Tales of strange noises, fleeting shadows, and patients who were never officially admitted. And among these legends, there is one that chills even the most seasoned medical professionals to the bone. The story of Ward C and the man they call the smiling patient. Ward C is a name you'll hear in hushed tones if you spend enough time around hospital veterans. It's not always in the same hospital, but the story is always the same. It often starts with a new nurse, fresh out of school, eager to prove herself. Let's call her Sarah. It was her third week on the night shift, a grueling rotation that leaves you feeling disconnected from the rest of the world. Her supervisor, a stern but fair woman named Carol, was giving her the rundown before heading home. She pointed down the long, dimly lit corridor. Everything down to room 37 is yours. The rest of the ward is decommissioned, empty. Just stay away from that last room on the left. 308. There's a note on the door. Just do what it says. Sarah, wanting to seem capable, just nodded an empty room. Easy enough to ignore. As the night deepened, the hospital settled into its eerie calm. The usual symphony of coughs, groans, and beeping machines became the soundtrack to Sarah's patrol. Around 3 a.m., the absolute dead of night, she was doing her rounds, checking vitals and refilling water pitchers. As she walked back toward the nurse's station, something caught her eye. At the very end of the hall, the curtain in the window of room 308 was moving. It wasn't a draft. The air in the hallway was completely still. It was a slow, deliberate sway, back and forth, as if someone had just brushed past it. Curiosity got the better of her. She remembered Carol's warning, but her training screamed at her. What if a patient had wandered in there? What if someone was in distress? She walked quietly down the corridor, her soft-soled shoes making no sound on the polished linoleum. The door to 308 was slightly ajar. A small, handwritten note was taped to it. The ink faded. It read, in simple, stark letters, "Do not engage with what an empty room." It made no sense. Taking a steadying breath, Sarah peered through the gap. The room was Spartan. Just a standard hospital bed, a nightstand, and a chair. But it wasn't empty. Sitting perfectly upright on the edge of the bed was a man. His hospital gown was pristine white, without a single wrinkle or stain. His posture was unnervingly perfect, his back straight as a board, his hands resting neatly on his knees. But the most unsettling thing was his face. He was smiling. It wasn't a warm or friendly smile. It was wide, stretched unnaturally from ear to ear, showing too many teeth, and he was staring directly at the door, directly at her, with eyes that didn't blink. Her first thought was to check the records. This had to be a mistake, a new admission she wasn't told about. She pulled out her tablet and quickly scanned the patient list for Ward C, then for the entire hospital. Nothing. Room 308 was officially listed as unoccupied and decommissioned. There was no name, no chart, no admission record whatsoever. According to the system, the man she was looking at didn't exist. Her heart started hammering against her ribs. This was wrong. This was all wrong. She looked up from her tablet, back into the room. Her blood ran cold. He wasn't on the bed anymore. He was standing right next to it, closer to the door now. He hadn't made a sound. He was still in that same perfect posture, still wearing that same spotless gown, and still fixed with that terrible, wide, unblinking smile. His eyes were locked on hers, dark and bottomless. Sarah noticed something else, something that made the hair on her arms stand on end. His chest wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. Panic set in. This wasn't a patient. This was something else. Her hand trembled as she reached for the radio on her shoulder. "Security to Ward C, North Wing," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I have an unauthorized individual in room 308. I need assistance immediately." The radio crackled to life, but it wasn't the voice of the security. It was static, thick and hissing, and from within the static, a low, guttural whisper slithered into her ear. A voice that sounded like dry leaves skittering across pavement. It said just 5 words. "Don't let him follow you." Sarah stumbled backward, her eyes still locked on the smiling man. He took a single, silent step toward the door, then another. He moved with a horrifying grace, completely noiseless. She turned and ran. She didn't look back. She sprinted down the hallway, the sound of her own frantic heartbeat roaring in her ears. She burst into the main nurse's station, gasping for breath, nearly colliding with 2 security guards who were just rounding the corner. The room 308, she managed to choke out, pointing down the dark hall. The guards exchanged a look that said they'd heard this before. With heavy footsteps and grim faces, they proceeded down the corridor with Sarah trailing cautiously behind. When they reached room 308, they found it exactly as it should have been. Completely empty. The bed was made, the chair was tucked in. There was no sign that anyone had been there at all. "See? Nothing," one of the guards said, trying to sound reassuring. "The night shift plays tricks on your eyes." But Sarah knew what she saw. Then the other guard, the older one, shone his flashlight on the window. On the inside of the curtain, the one she had seen swaying, was a perfect handprint, stamped in what looked like dark, wet blood. The next day, Carol, her supervisor, pulled her aside. Her face was grim. She explained that the smiling patient was a legend in this hospital, a story told to scare the new recruits. or so most people thought. But every few years, someone, usually a new nurse on the night shift, sees him. They say he was a patient who died in that room decades ago. Died with a serene smile on his face. But the smile stayed, even after he was gone. And now, he just appears. No one knows what he wants. But the story goes that if you see the curtain in Ward C slowly swaying, you turn around and walk away. You don't look inside. You don't engage. Because once the smiling patient chooses you, he's not content to stay in his room. He follows. They say that for those unlucky few, he starts to appear in reflections. You'll glance at a darkened window as you walk past and see him standing right behind you, smiling. You'll catch a glimpse of him in your rearview mirror while driving home at night. You'll see him in the reflection of your dark phone screen. He's always there, in the periphery, in the shadows, just behind you. Always smiling, always waiting. He never harms you, not physically. He just watches. Until one day, driven by the constant, silent terror, you look in the mirror and find yourself smiling back with that same wide, unnatural grin. And then, you're never seen again. So if you ever find yourself walking down a quiet hospital corridor late at night and you see a curtain move where it shouldn't, don't be a hero. Don't be curious. Remember Sarah. Remember the whisper on the radio. Walk away. And whatever you do, don't look in any reflections on your way out. You might just see someone you don't recognize, smiling right behind you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the darkness. Stay safe out there. You know, I've heard a lot of stories from friends who are nurses, especially those who pull the long, lonely, overnight shifts in the ICU. The things they see, the sounds they hear, it's enough to make your skin crawl. But there's one story that always sticks with me. One that blurs the line between a medical anomaly and something far more sinister. It started on a Tuesday night, or maybe a Wednesday. The days blend together in the ICU. There was a patient in Bay 7, a man in his late 50s, clinging to life by a thread. His condition was critical. Every beep and whir of the machines a constant reminder of how fragile his hold was. The nurse on duty, we'll call her Sarah, was doing her rounds when she noticed something odd about his heart monitor. It wasn't the usual random spikes or dips you see when a machine is acting up. This was different. The EKG line was moving with a strange, deliberate rhythm. It would jump, hold, drop, then repeat in a pattern that seemed intentional. It looked like pulses, like Morse code. Sarah called over a senior nurse, Maria. Maria had been working that ward for 20 years. She'd seen it all, or so she thought. She looked at the monitor, her brow furrowed. "It's just interference," she said. "Maybe a new piece of equipment on the floor, or his pacemaker is glitching." They tried swapping out the leads, then the entire machine, but the pattern persisted on the new monitor, just as clear as before. Dot, dot, das en paus. Dot, das, dot. A cold curiosity got the better of Sarah. She grabbed a piece of paper and a pen from the nurse's station. While Maria watched, skeptical but intrigued, Sarah began to transcribe the strange dance of the green line. She jotted down the peaks and the pauses, translating the visual rhythm into dots and dashes. It was slow, tedious work. The machine would fall silent for minutes at a time, only to burst back into its cryptic signaling. After almost an hour, Sarah had a string of characters. She pulled up a Morse code chart on her phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she translated the code. Dot dash 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 dash. The letters began to form a word, a single, chilling word, H-E-L-P. Just as she read the word aloud, a long, piercing alarm blared through the ICU. The patient's monitor flatlined. A straight, unwavering green line, code blue. The room was suddenly flooded with doctors and nurses. The crash cart was rolled in. "Starting compressions," someone yelled. It was chaos. They worked on him for what felt like an eternity, but it was no use. The doctor called the time of death at 2:58 a.m. As the team started to clear out, their faces grim, Sarah noticed something impossible. The heart monitor, still connected to the deceased patient, flickered. The flat line began to jump again, not with a heartbeat, but with the same rhythmic patterns as before. Maria saw it too. Her face went pale. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't interference. The patient was gone. There was no electrical activity in his heart. Yet, the machine continued its silent broadcast. This time, the patterns were more complex, faster. Sarah, compelled by a force she couldn't explain, started writing again. The message was longer this time. It spelled out 2 phrases. "I can see you." And then, after a long pause, "Do not turn around." Sarah froze, the pen dropping from her hand and clattering on the floor. The air in the room felt thick and heavy. Every hair on her arm stood on end. She and Maria slowly backed out of the room, their eyes locked on the still flickering monitor. They didn't speak. What was there to say? In the weeks that followed, Bay 7 became the stuff of legend on the night shift. An investigation was launched, of course. The IT department and biomedical engineering took the monitor apart, ran every diagnostic they could think of, and found absolutely nothing wrong with it. They declared it a fluke, a 1 in a million electronic anomaly. They even reviewed the security footage from that night. The footage showed the staff's frantic resuscitation efforts. It showed the patient being pronounced dead. It showed Sarah and Maria staring at the monitor, their faces filled with terror. But then, the investigators noticed something else. Every single night since the incident, at exactly 3:11 a.m., the monitor in the now empty Bay 7 would switch on by itself. It would flicker for a few minutes, displaying its silent, coded messages to an empty room, and then power down. This happened even on nights when the room was unoccupied. It happened even after they unplugged it from the wall. Eventually, life in the ICU had to go on. New patients came and went from Bay 7. Most of the staff tried to forget about the haunted monitor. They dismissed it as a ghost story, a product of sleep deprivation and stress. About a year later, a new nurse named Chloe was assigned to the night shift. She was young, eager, and hadn't yet been worn down by the grim realities of the ward. During a quiet moment, she was looking through old incident logs, trying to familiarize herself with the unit's history. She stumbled upon the report from that night in Bay 7. The official explanation was equipment malfunction, but the handwritten notes from Nurse Sarah told a different story. Chloe was fascinated. She read about the Morse code, the impossible messages. Tucked into the back of the file was the piece of paper Sarah had used. Covered in her frantic scribbles, Chloe followed the trail of dots and dashes, translating the phrases. "Help! I can see you. Do not turn around." But then she noticed a final line of code at the bottom of the page, one that wasn't mentioned in the official report. It must have been transcribed after Sarah and Maria had left the room that night. Chloe slowly translated the final, chilling message. "You heard me." As the last letter formed in her mind, she felt it, a light, cold touch on the back of her neck. Like the gentle brush of fingers, she whipped around, her heart hammering against her ribs. The room was empty. She was completely alone at the nurse's station. The only sound was the distant, rhythmic beep of a dozen healthy heart monitors. Then, a new sound cut through the silence. A high-pitched, steady, unbroken tone. A flat line. Chloe looked up at the central monitoring station. Have you ever worked the night shift? That quiet, strange time when the world feels like it's holding its breath? Well, what I'm about to tell you happened during one such night in June of 1972. at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, it was a night that would haunt the staff for the rest of their lives. The clock on the wall read 2:47 a.m. The automatic doors to the emergency room slid open with a soft whoosh, letting in the cool night air. The night shift nurse, tired from a long shift, looked up from her paperwork and froze. Standing in the entrance was a woman. She was perfectly still, a silent figure in the doorway. She was wearing a simple white gown, but it was tattered and stained with a dark, unidentifiable substance. It looked like blood, but not quite. But it wasn't her clothes that sent a shiver down the nurse's spine. It was her face. It was ... blank. Completely devoid of any expression. Her features were human, yes, but they felt unfinished, like a mannequin or a drawing that someone forgot to give life to. Her eyes were wide open, staring straight ahead, but they never blinked. Her mouth was a straight, thin line. She just stood there, a statue of emptiness. The silence in the ER was suddenly deafening. The nurse swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. Can I help you?" The woman's head turned. It didn't move naturally. It swiveled with a slow, mechanical precision, like a security camera, until her gaze locked onto the nurse. Still, no expression. No sign that she heard. No flicker of pain, fear, or confusion. Just that hollow, unnerving stare. And then the smell hit them. It was a nauseating mix of something rotting and something sharp, chemical. It was a smell that didn't belong to this world. A smell that made your stomach turn and your survival instincts scream. The nurse, now genuinely terrified, fumbled for the phone and called security. 2 guards arrived moments later, their heavy footsteps echoing in the quiet hall. They saw the woman, and their professional demeanor faltered. They, too, felt the unnatural wrongness of the scene. "Man, you need to come with us," one of the guards said, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman remained motionless, her vacant eyes fixed on a point somewhere beyond them. The guard reached out a hand, intending to gently guide her to a private room. That was his mistake. The instant his fingers made contact with her arm, her jaw unhinged. I don't mean she opened her mouth wide like a yawn. I mean it disconnected, dropping down further than humanly possible, like a snake preparing to swallow its prey. Her face, which had been so still, was now a grotesque, gaping void. And from that impossible darkness, a sound erupted. Those who were there that night struggled to describe it later. It wasn't a scream. A scream is a human sound of terror or pain. This was something else entirely. It was a noise that seemed to bypass their ears and claw directly at the most primal, ancient part of their brains. The part that remembers a time when humans were not the apex predators. When we were the ones being hunted in the dark. As the sound tore through the hospital, the overhead lights flickered violently. Panic erupted. Several nurses screamed and fled, abandoning their stations. In the ensuing chaos, the security guards tried to restrain the woman, but she possessed an impossible, inhuman strength. It took 4 grown men, all trained security officers, to finally subdue her. They managed to get her into a secure room in the psychiatric ward, locking the heavy door from the outside. The hospital staff who remained tried to calm their racing hearts, assuming the worst was over, but it wasn't. When the sun rose the next morning, a doctor and 2 guards went to check on the mysterious patient. They unlocked the door and cautiously pushed it open. The room was empty. Completely empty. The window, 4 stories high, was still sealed shut from the inside. The heavy door had been locked from the outside all night. The security footage from the hallway camera showed no one entering or leaving the room. She had simply vanished. The hospital administration moved quickly to bury the incident. Official reports were filed, but they were vague, citing a disturbed and unidentified female who was transferred. The original, detailed incident reports, the ones describing the unhinging jaw and the unholy sound, disappeared from the archives. The staff who witnessed the event were quietly advised not to speak about it, but they couldn't forget. Even decades later, those who are still alive and were there that night rarely talk about it. When they do, their voices drop to a whisper, and they all mention the same terrifying detail. Her face, that terrible, blank, expressionless face. Theories and whispers have circulated in the hospital's corridors for years. Some believe she wasn't human at all, but something else, merely wearing a human disguise. Others speculate she was the horrifying result of some secret, failed experiment, a being that escaped its confines. A few of the older nurses, the ones who passed down the hospital's ghost stories, claim she never truly left. They say she still appears in hospitals, always late at night, always at the exact same time, 2:47 a.m. So, if you ever find yourself in a hospital after midnight and you see a lone figure standing silently in the entrance, a figure with a face that holds no expression at all, the staff who remembered that night in 1972 have a chilling piece of advice. Don't make eye contact. Turn around. And whatever you do, don't ask if they need help. Thanks for watching, everyone. This story is one of those that really sticks with you, isn't it? If you have any creepy hospital stories of your own, I'd love to read them in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dive into the unexplained, please hit that like button and subscribe for more strange dailies. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.